I just was on a walk and found this. You're like, that looks like a dandelion. Here's the size of a standard dandelion that I cast in resin back in 2016. This one's humongous. I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm calling it a dandelion, but it's obviously not. It's something else that just looks like a dandelion seed. And before it decides to shed all of its seeds, I'm gonna try to cast it in resin. When I cast my original dandelion, I cast it in a cup this size. When I cast my iron sphere, I cast it in a cup this size. In order to fit the entirety of this giant object, I'm gonna have to cast it in a mixing container this size. Today we're gonna use thickset Fathom for it. Max pour is saying 2 inches, and we're talking about doubling that. We're gonna go just a little over 40 ounces. So I'm going for like 42 ounces-ish, and then I'm gonna fill the hardener up to 64 ounces, and that is pretty close to a 2-to-1 ratio. If there's a failure for this, it's not gonna be anybody's fault but mine. We are way past the directions on the bottle here. One of the nice things about this resin is its incredibly long open time. I think we're ready for the next step. What is the next step? In here, here's the setup. Giant dandelion, clamped in a binder clip, suspended via a dowel. And the whole thing slowly lowered into the resin.
Cool.
Isn't that wild looking?
That's wild.
It's going to one side, which is super weird.
But the fact that it's in there is amazing.
Yeah. The whole thing keeps moving this direction. I'm not sure why. So I've added some magnets on this side of the binder clip to hope it keeps it weighted down. Now you've messed with it too much. I messed with it too much. I literally started fussing around trying to get it centered, and all the seeds just came loose. So I pulled the stem out, and I was going to try to pick all the seeds out, but I mean, I don't know what. Don't mess. It's super fragile. While I was mixing up a new batch, my wife went down and stole another one from this poor fellow's garden. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I'm going to put the lid on it and be done with it. Seed kept moving, kept drifting around, so I kept trying to move it back. And at some point, that resistance just was too much. They all just came loose, and I pulled the stem out and all the seeds stayed in here. And so then I cast a second one. But that's not in the right spot. This volume of resin in this size container generating as much heat as it did, the fact that it just turned slightly yellow is amazing. So now if we can just figure out how to get that seed in the right location, we're gonna be good. Here is the third mixture of resin, and in the corner of the shop where nobody is breathing on it, you can see the pod over there waiting for its time to get dunked. There's a part of me that wants to put a tiny amount of pigment in here just to see if we can counteract that yellow, and I keep getting told that either a blue or a purple can counteract the yellow, but my urge to try it is probably stronger than my worry about messing things up. I'm going to put 1 drop of violet in here. It's in the corner. Let's hope it's not. We're tricking brains right now. I know that that's violet, but my brain definitely says that looks clear to me now. Now all I have to do is figure out how to keep this thing from drifting. This was what a good 4 minutes of thinking yielded. I drilled a hole in a stir stick. I stuck the stem through the hole. I unwound a spring that I found, shoved it down into the stem, and put a drop of CA glue right here. I'm now adjusting the camera one-handed, which is actually pretty flippin' difficult. All right, everybody hold your breath. Number 3 is in the pot, and we're just gonna hope for the best. Hope for the best. Hope, 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 hope. Let's see how we did. You can definitely see some ripples on the surface. That means it's been overheated, which is not a surprise considering how much I poured. It's not coming out. Alright, that's not great. This wire was our salvation. It's what allowed us to get to this point, and now it's going to be our undoing. How far down there did I stick this thing? Okay. So when I did the iron sphere, I used this template to help me eyeball a 3-inch circle. And now I'm going to use 4.5 inch. It's just a tool to help you eyeball where you're at. Obviously we need to remove quite a lot of material here at the ends to try to get this thing more spherical. You hear how the tool's jumping right now? That's because this isn't in round, and we're just going to keep working till it is. Here, and you can see the stem spinning around. We've got a lot of material to remove. Almost at this point looks like a really cool lantern. What I'm worried about is this is what's holding this whole thing on the lathe. So the more I turn this away, the less holding power we have. It would have been fine. These are sphere turning cups. I got these for the iron sphere. The stationary one goes in the drive side, and the spinning one goes in the tailstock side. You take your partially turned blank and you line it up as best as you can. Turn it on really slow. Yeah. Alright, where the partially turned sections meet up is this ghosting here. So we're going to try to remove all that ghosted material, which should take off these two big lumps. Loosen the whole setup, flip it another 90 degrees, tighten it up again. Take a little material off, you turn the sphere, you take a little material off. What's tricky is getting it to sit nice and flat in the cups. I think we can move on to sanding. And we're just sanding through the grits here. I started at 120, I'm going to go through 150, 180, 240, 320, 400, 600, all the way up to 800. Sanding the sphere is a little extra work, because once you do it in one orientation, you need to rotate it 90 degrees and sand it in the other orientation. Alright, that is sanded up to 800 grit. These are my polishing pads. I use micro mesh. I'm going to put a little water in here. Micro mesh are my favorite polishing system. As you know, it's its own grit system. You just start going through the grits one at a time. They start at 1500 and go through to 12,000. And now we're on to fuchsia, which is the final pad. Giant dandelion seed pod. I still don't know what it actually is, and this blank shouldn't even exist. Just as a point of reference, here's the iron sphere that I made. It just dwarfs it. And the resin came out super clear. It's hard to tell because it is a brown object in clear resin, but the fact that you can look that deep into it tells you that the clarity is excellent. This is technically the fourth one that we picked. The first one you saw, I played with it and it fell apart. The second one drifted. The third one never actually made it home. Gust of wind hit it, blew it all to bits. And the fourth one, Mrs. Brown actually drove over and got one in the car. So we basically stole 4 of these things from my neighbor's garden. Hopefully he won't watch these videos and find out that I'm the one stealing his seed pods. The fact that this came out at all is an absolute miracle. This resin way outperformed what it was supposed to. The max pour on the bottle says 2 inches. We were at 4.5 inches for the pour. 2 liters, single pour. It definitely overheated and got a little waviness at the edges. The fact that it's still crystal clear, it's amazing. Thanks to Total Boat not only for sponsoring this video, but for making an amazing product. If you would like to try some of this resin or any of their others, there is a link down in the description with a discount code to use at checkout. I love the way that it looks just clear, but I also like the light shining up through it. The white light gives it a almost Christmas ornament. If this wasn't like a crazy 2-pound sphere, it would make a fantastic Christmas ornament. I also like it with the colored lights coming up through the bottom of it. Mrs. Brown said it looked kind of like fiber optic, and she's right. The seed pods almost look like they're transmitting the light just because of how wispy they are. I can't think of anything bad to say about it. Not only that I was able to pour that volume of resin and have it succeed, and then to cast an object as delicate as this seed almost feels like we're freezing time. And then lastly, to have it come out so good. Thank you all very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, share it. All those things would help me out immensely, and I will catch you next time.